Are you searching for answers? Discover your true identity. Stay tuned to Shalom World.
So growing up, I didn't really go to church, and when I became a Christian, there weren't really any priests that I'd met that were real and relatable. That was until I met Father Galea at my first ever Ignite conference, a singer, songwriter, weightlifting priest. And those are four things that I had never heard in the same sentence in my life. And I've had the chance to see him speak at many events over the years, and I've had the privilege of sharing a meal with him. And today we're joined by Father Rob Galea on another slice of pizza. Father Rob, how are you?
I'm well, Zach. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good.
Good, that's good. We had a meal together. Did we eat pizza?
It was an Italian restaurant, but I don't think we had pizza. It was down in Wollongong. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do remember. I can't remember what I ate then, but probably, yeah, I was very careful with my diet, with my carbs then.
You are a priest who, I guess, wants to look after his body. Is pizza something you have often?
Well, sometimes, like on a special occasion, if I have to. But I would try and avoid carbs as much as I can.
Yeah, I feel like I started out really strong. I was like exercising every day. But then once it got into like, a few months, I was like, I can't keep doing this. I had like no motivation.
It's so true. It's so true. When we're out of routine, it's really difficult to start a new routine away from what we used to.
Yeah, and the flip side's also true. Like once you've been in a routine for so long, sometimes it's hard to keep going because you haven't anything to spice it up, I guess. What about growing up in Malta? Growing up as a kid, I had pizza every Friday night. We'd have sport in the afternoon, we'd get pizza, we'd watch a movie. What was growing up like for you in Malta?
Well, Malta, first of all, we have a lot of pizza because it's right next to Italy. Malta is only 80 kilometers from Italy. So if you take a plane from Malta to Sicily, you're literally taking off and landing. So it's a 20-minute flight.
You're in the airport for longer than you're in the air.
Oh, most definitely. Absolutely. And by a long shot. But we didn't have traditions like that, what we'd eat on a Friday or a Saturday. Yes, we'd stay away from meat, but it was... Malta also has a lot of fish in our diet, and we'd eat pizza. But again, it would be occasional.
Yeah, and Malta's also quite Christian as well. Like I mentioned that I didn't grow up going to church. Is growing up going to church something that was familiar for you?
Well, look, I was brought up in the church. Malta's 98% Catholic, and we have a lot. Everywhere you go, you could tell Malta's Catholic. I mean, we have on the weekends there are fireworks on the horizon every single weekend because of our Catholic feasts and celebrating one Catholic saint or the other. But I had sort of a time of rebellion from when I was about 14 till I was 17 and ended up in a big mess. But then I rediscovered my faith at 17, and it was there I started returning to the church. I had an encounter with Jesus. And when I returned to the church, though, I used to go into the church and I used to see priests, but I never really connected with priests because I know it's different now because I know these priests that I used to look at, but they looked so like unhappy. And I know I'm sorry I'm saying this, but this is sometimes because sometimes the only place we know priests is a place where they're uncomfortable. And very often, that isn't a place of public speaking. A lot of priests are introverts. And so when they come to this public place, and that's the only place you know them, they look uncomfortable. They look awkward. They look boring. They look not at ease. And that's the only way I saw the priests. But this was to change for me when I was about 19, and I was in Italy touring as a musician. And I saw a priest in Sicily, and he was just so cool, so full of life. And I remember that was the first time in the middle of a song, I was playing a song, and I remember having this thought. Now, I had a girlfriend at the time, so I didn't want to be a priest. I didn't consider priesthood. I remember having the thought in the middle of a song, thinking, Jesus, I don't want to be a priest, but if I'll be anything like this guy, I'll consider it. And
Yeah.
goodness me, that was Jesus' foot in the door. I shouldn't have prayed that prayer, maybe, or maybe I should have. But it's amazing, yeah.
You give him an inch, hey, and he'll take it beyond your wildest dreams. And I guess, like, you know, since that moment, you've actually, in my eyes, I don't know who that priest that you met was, but the way that you've described him is definitely the way that I see you, and the way that I see you preaching. And I remember hearing you speak about your story, and whenever I'd seen a priest, you know, a priest was quite put together, and they were saying mass, you know, so they were in their element, and things, they just seemed to be this picture perfect image of holiness. But you were real and raw about your past, and it was very similar to mine. And I just remember feeling like, oh my gosh, like, it's possible to be holy and to be a Christian and a Catholic, even though I've had this past, and it's possible for me to go on to do great things. And I remember hearing you speak at an event in Sydney when I was on serving with Net, and someone was just grilling you for being a little bit different in the way that you practice your vocation, the way that you present yourself to young people. And you know, you're posting gym shots, and you're sort of putting up videos of your cool socks, and someone was like, why are you doing this? Like, you're compromising your integrity as a priest. Like, and you said something so beautifully simple. You said, I live my life on the edge because that's where people are falling off. And I was just blown away, because you went on to share a little bit about, I guess, some of the victory stories or some of the miracles that have happened because of the way that you've lived out your vocation as a priest. Would you mind sharing a bit about what that's looked like, and some of the incredible things that have happened for you being a bit real and raw?
Yeah, look, first of all, I'd say that I don't see myself as living any different. For me, I'm just trying to live as God called me to live, to be real. Now, one of the biggest dangers, I think, is that when we are ordained, and even in the past, when priests were ordained, they were called to be superhuman. They're called to be holy. They were called to put their hands together to make sure every second sentence was God bless you, and somehow you end up in this place where you're elevated as this holy man, when that is, I think, so destructive, if you ask me, to our vocation, to our real sort of understanding of who we are before God. I know that I'm called to be a priest, and I'm blessed, and I'm privileged, and I'm honored, and I know that this is an extraordinary call. But at the same time, I know also that I'm broken. I know also too well that I'm messed up, that God doesn't call me in my perfection, but in my mess, he calls me, and he, as we journey together, walk towards perfection. Now, with knowing that and knowing my mess, knowing my brokenness, I'm not afraid to let that shine too. Now, because if you're going to reach out to people, and the way I see that we need to reach out to people, you have to come down in order to lift them up. Yes, there are people who see the priest up there and are inspired to be like that and jump up to the pillar where the priest is, but most people don't. There are a lot of people who cannot reach that.
I think it's beautiful, because Jesus, even, you know, there's that prophecy about, you know, by his stripes we are healed. And like you said, like, Jesus came down off of the cross, and, you know, he went up to Thomas and said, like, look at my wounds. Like, they're not, you know, our past and our wounds and our mistakes. Like, I don't think Christ intended them to make us less holy, but to help glorify him, you know. So I think that's really cool what you were sharing there.
Yes, because I think it's even our woundedness can glorify God. And this is the danger, I think, of the church in the past, where it hid its wounds so far deep that it became comfortable in hiding. It found a system of hiding those wounds. And in hiding those wounds, and then they became another person. There was the wounded me, and then there was the me that the people knew. And so there was this lack of integrity. And this is necessarily so, because priests are human beings. No matter how holy, how perfect they look, they are broken people, just like Zach, you are a broken person, just like anyone else is a broken person. But I think this is where we as priests need not to be ashamed. Now, it's not to glorify sin in any way or any form, but people need to see your struggle to be holy. People need to see that you are not perfect, but yet you're getting up again. The difference between a champion and a loser, both champions and losers fall to the ground, but the loser stays on the ground. The champion gets up again and up again. And this is the point. This is where I want people to see not only what I'm saying, but I want people also to journey with me, to know my giftedness and my lack of giftedness. My whole life, I've suffered from depression, from anxiety. I'm not ashamed to talk about that. I'm not, just because I'm a priest and I talk about Jesus and I am full of joy. I love Jesus and I am joyful. But there are moments where I don't want to face life anymore. I don't want to face people.
Yeah.
But I still get up and I talk about this journey and I journey with people. I just released a song, a cover, which talks about this. You know, it's for the broken, for the ones who are isolated, those who are lonely. Jesus is there in your loneliness. He's there in your brokenness. He's there in your sorrow. He's there in your depression. He's there in your sickness. He's there in your cancer. Now, the easiest thing is to say that Jesus is there in the healing, that Jesus is there in the liberation, in the freedom, but he's also there in the struggle.
And I love that you've mentioned the turning point, I guess, in the church. And I think, Francis has encouraged us to sort of smell like the sheep, to not hide these things and to sort of not create this division between us and them, but to be a people, a unified people again. But obviously there is a bit of a temptation to maybe compromise our faith or maybe water down our faith or our integrity. And I guess you're someone who has walked that line, I think, and I was wondering if you could maybe give us any tips or anything that you found useful in smelling like the sheep without sort of becoming one of the sheep and losing your role as the shepherd.
Yes. Look, I would say this. We're called to be in the world, but not of the world. Okay? And this is our vocation. This is not only my vocation as a priest, but every person's vocation. So yes, I do post gym selfies, and yes, now I've learned as well. Maybe before I was a bit more aggressive in the way I posted my selfies, but I admit I'm learning, I'm journeying, I'm trying to figure out what works, what doesn't. Wow. Now, also, and even as you go about in your journey, for example, on social media, one of the things I want to show is that I'm journeying as a human being, not only as a priest. But at the same time, I'm uncompromising when it comes to my prayer. I'm uncompromising when it comes to speaking the truth as well. I'm not afraid to talk about what Jesus teaches, to get rid of sin in our life, to talk about social justice issues, to talk about life from the womb to the tomb issues, to speak out for the unspoken, for the broken, for those who are considering abortion, to people who are euthanasia. I'm not afraid to talk about these things. Where I talk about them and how I talk about them, I try and be sure that it is in a place that is not causing more heat than light. But at the same time, I tell you the things that I need in my life. I need prayer. I don't compromise prayer. I spend an hour before the Lord every morning, and I speak to Jesus and I cry out to Jesus, and I have nothing. Honestly, I have nothing if I don't have Jesus. And so this is my day. My morning is where I get a big hug from Jesus, and then I am able to love other people. Another thing is accountability. How important it is to be accountable, to be true, accountable also with the sacraments, yes, a reconciliation, but also accountable to people in my life who, when they see a post and they say, Father Rob, we just noticed this post, maybe it's not so good. And I have to be humble enough to take it off and to listen, and to listen. So to have this accountability in my life, personal life. And that another thing is also to be a person of integrity. I'm not going to, I think integrity is impossible if you don't have accountability and prayer. I think this is so important.
And what exactly is integrity? I've heard it said as, it's remaining the same despite different conditions? Is that what you would, I guess, define integrity as?
A person who is integral is a person who's whole, who on the outside is the same as the inside, who not doesn't try to be one person and then is another person inside. Now, it doesn't mean that you bring forward everything that you are to people, because people don't understand and people will criticize. So yeah, I'm not saying that, but at the same time, it's to be true to who you are, and that is a person of integrity, a person who you can trust, a person who is close to God. And the greatest integrity we can have is when we are on the inside and the outside, like the person of Jesus.
Same.
And this brings me to this thing, like of Mary. And I cannot help but mention Mary, because you see, Mary is the one who fights for us for integrity. There are times that I cannot pray. There are times I don't feel like facing God. I don't feel like facing Jesus. And this is where I find Mary so powerful, that she's the warrior, always bringing me back to my feet, bringing me back to seeing Jesus. Yes, I'm a musician. Yes, I'm on stage. And yes, I have followers on Instagram and Facebook. But it means absolutely nothing when you're standing with Mary before Jesus. And this is where we need to be spending a lot of our time, understanding that we are nothing before God. We're struggling before God. But at the same time, I don't want to go to heaven empty-handed. I don't want to go to heaven not having done everything I could do to bring people with me to heaven.
I guess one of the things that I noticed that you were just sharing about was, being yourself in all of the different areas of your life and your ministry, but also sort of like picking your battles, you mentioned that you're not afraid, you'll never shy away from, I guess, different hot topics, but the way in which you share it and who you share it with is a little bit different. I feel like some of those hot topics you can't really just share about in a 5-minute soundbite. It takes a conversation, and it takes a relationship. And so those are things that we don't want to compromise, and we don't want to sort of change. What are some things that maybe you could encourage us to sort of to do differently, and to sort of maybe be a little bit more relational and be a little bit more real with people without compromising those big pillars of our faith, I guess, like prayer and accountability and integrity, morality and things like that? What are some things that we could do a little bit better?
Well, I think one of the most important things to understand, that evangelization, being a witness of Jesus, begins with listening. It begins with listening in two places. One is listening to the voice of God. What voice are you listening to? Now, there's the voice of the news, there's the voice of negativity, there's the voice of aggression, there's the voice even of anger, even within the church. What voices are you listening to? Or are you spending time listening to the heart of God? Now, once you listen to the heart of God and you allow the heart of God to conform your heart and to become that heart of integrity, then from that point, you start listening to the world. Listen to the world. Listen to the broken. Listen to your critics. Listen to the ones who hate you. I just don't, like on social media, I get so much hate. But I never, unless I really have to, I don't block these people, but I just listen. And at the end of the day, it's just their anger, and it's just their frustration, and their expectations of what they want me to be and what they want me to do. At the end of the day, what is going to be most important is the voice I heard in my morning prayer. That voice should be louder than the voice of my critics, the voice of sin, the voice of temptation. Now, if you're not listening to the voice of love, the voice of Jesus telling you that he loves you, that he's patient with you, that he's kind to you, that he's good to you, then there's no way you're going to survive as a person of integrity in the world. There's no way. And so this is where we have to start, to stop. Psalm 46, verse 1, be still and know that I am God. Shut up. Iskot is the word in Aramaic. Iskot u'araf liyena Allah. Shut up and let me be God. Now, if we're just constantly listening to people around us, and even in evangelization, even being a witness, you look at other priests, you look at other people, and you think this is the way to evangelize. That's a good voice, but make sure you're listening also to to God's heart
Yeah.
for you and your heart for God.
It's beautiful, and I think it's exactly what I need to hear. Someone who is, I'm flat chat 90% of the time doing ministry and evangelizing and trying to do all these things and tick all these boxes, and I think I needed to hear that. Shut up and listen to me, Zac. And I think as a people, you know, we need to stop being so busy trying to do everything, but to stop and to sit and listen, because it's just, as soon as we think we know everything, you know, that's when we know nothing. So thank you for joining us, Father Rob, on another slice of pizza. It's been a true blessing, and I just pray that we might be able to live our lives, you know, smelling like the sheep, but not losing our integrity, and continue to pray for you and your ministry, and please pray for us as well.
I will. God bless you.
Thanks, Father Rob. Peace with you.
A lot of talk in our church today about the new evangelization, and we might ask, well, what's new about the new evangelization? One thing that's new is that we're trying to renew the faith in people who should already be Catholic, should already be Christian. Individuals, families, communities, whole cultures that need to rediscover the gospel. And so what's new is that they're getting a new shot in the arm of faith, of evangelization. Another thing that's new about it is the way that we do that. And the new media and groups like Shalom World TV are very important for bringing the gospel anew to our cultures, to our families, to each of us individually. And so I encourage all the viewers of Shalom World TV, and I encourage Shalom World TV themselves to keep up the good work, to keep watching this channel and to keep up the good work of presenting the Catholic faith to our world today.